In this video, we're gonna see how we can manage the sun and the sky inside VRAY for Rhino, and we're going to do that with both Rhino tools and also VRAY tools. So we will talk about natural lighting, so how we can light up our scene, our model using natural lights. Well, and we saw how we can use this system for both exterior and interior when we use the light generator. Now, when we use the light generator in previous videos, we saw how everything is managed automatically by this particular tool here, which is pretty handy and pretty fast and pretty easy to use. But what we want to do in this video is we want to explore ourselves these parts which are really important to understand. So how the sunlight works and how we can manage and customize that. Also how the skylight works, or the dome light, which is basically the same thing. Now let's generate here some more variants using the HDR setting that we saw in previous video, just to finish off with the HDRI. And we're gonna assign a texture here for the sky and the dome light, and then we're gonna delete everything. So let's double click on one of these auto-generated settings, then I will close this. All right, so we can see here we also have some reflections. Now we're going to talk about materials later on, how to get realistic materials and scenes, but here you can see we have some transparency and especially refraction, and this is why HDRIs are important, because they can give us nice reflections. And we're going to come back here also for the HDRIs in another video. Now we're going to concentrate on the sun and sky basically and natural lighting, but before we do that, I just want to go back to the VRAY Vision, which is another tool that we already saw in previous videos, just to show you one particular option that we encountered when we talked about VRAY Vision, and it's right here in the settings. So here in the settings, if you want to use the IBL, so image-based lighting sun, so the one that is calculated from the image, the HDRI image, you can have this option turned on. Now just remember that when you use HDR images, there is no sun to manage. We are creating the sky light and the sunlight directly with a single image. This is why it's so easy to use and fast. Now we can also use Rhino panels. So if I go, for example, here in the rendering tab, you can see here I have VRAY for Rhino, and if I scroll down, well, I have a lot of settings here, but let's go to the ones that we care now. Well, I can also change the background here if I don't want to see that, and maybe I want to turn on a ground plane or not, and I have also the possibility here to change the environment. Just like we changed this in the rendering, we can change here and use other types. So I can go here to more types, and I can get more, and you can see here I have a lot of different that I can use. And I think these are different from HDRIs. They have another format, but if we want, we can also use this here in Rhino. Okay, and they behave basically just like the environment. Okay, so but we are using VRAY, so we don't need this right now. We are overriding all this with the information from VRAY. So some things are overwritten, some things are connected, and we can manage them from both Rhino or VRAY. So if we go here to the sun settings, now you can see that we have manual control turned on, but we're gonna see that all of this is gonna change. So let's get back here to let's start from the beginning. Let's get to the asset editor and let's start to delete stuff here, because we have a lot of stuff which I used to create some effects. So I will start to delete, and then we're gonna do that everything together. So you can see I deleted the DOM light, which was generated automatically by the light gen. Okay, the only thing I cannot delete is the Rhino document sun, because this is connected to Rhino and I cannot delete it. But let's look here. If I run a render, I don't see anything. Now I have total black. I can start from the beginning, from 0. Let's turn on the only light that I have, Rhino document sun, and is the one that you see also here. So this is a connected parameter, and let's render. Okay, wrong view. Let's select perspective and re-render. There you go. Now this is how the scene is gonna look if you only use one light. So it's kind of being into a theater and you have this really intense and concentrated beam of light which is illuminating your scene. This is how the document sun, or in general the sun light, it's created in VRAY. And it's also called a directional light because all the beams are going in the same direction. All the photons are hitting from the same direction and with the same directionality. So you can see where I'm going here. I want to analyze all the lights one by one to understand better how they work. And this is the sun, or we can call it directional light. Now let's expand this and let's study a little bit more. So be careful for this one that it doesn't have to be below the 0, otherwise you're gonna have black. So the first tool to manage the sunlight is here. You can direct the sunlight from here. And again, re-render again. Now let's add a dome light, which is basically the one that we can use also with the skylight. Now we have two creation methods. One is with the left mouse and one is with the right. So if I click here, it doesn't matter how and where I place this because it's always gonna look the same. So if once I click there, it's gonna ask me to find EXR or HDR image, but we are going to talk about this later. So I'm just gonna skip this, but it's gonna place here this arrow anyway. And if I look more closely by zooming, I can see that I have a sphere here together with the arrow. Now let's do the second method, which is with the right click here. And I prefer this because I can increase the size and say, okay, this will be my sun and sky system. Okay, now you see that immediately I can see here the dome light.